we had like a health situation going on in my family that made it very difficult to continue what I was doing and even consider making ends meet, right? And I was like, I gotta figure something out. I gotta do something new, something different, because what I'm doing now, no matter, even if I like cap it at the most intense, I'm not gonna make enough to make ends meet. I need to figure something else. And that's really where real estate came in.
In the back of your mind, your dreams should be real, right?
Thanks all for tuning in to Dreamcatchers, where we make things happen. Dreamcatchers was formally launched to unlock the hidden potential in successful, self-motivated individuals who desire to take their life's work to the next level but need support to evolve. We are a collective group of professionals with various backgrounds that use our talents to assist those individuals in realizing their wildest dreams by providing education, inspiration, and direction. This podcast is where we share the lessons we've learned along the way to catching our dreams and give you some context around the how and the why to each approach to put you further ahead on the journey to catching your dream. Are you ready?
Hey everybody, welcome to the Dreamcatchers podcast. I'm your host, Jerome, and I've got Yonah Weiss with me today. He's my buddy, man. There's so many ways I could go in introducing this guy, but I think I just want to jump into the conversation with him. We're going to do something different than what he normally does, and we'll see where the conversation goes. Yonah, thanks for joining me today. How are you?
I am doing incredibly, Jerome. It's actually, I can't even thank you enough for giving me this opportunity. Love the opportunity to speak with you in general and having a fun conversation. Something different than what I'm totally busy with the whole day, all day long. So what are you busy with all day long? I don't think many people know about what you do and how you do it. So I will give you opportunity to talk about that a little bit, and then we can dive into the story. Yeah, I do something called cost segregation, which is an income tax benefit for property owners. But basically what I do is just like hang out on social media all day. And I mean, in the end of the day, that's really what it comes down to. I have to be honest. So, but I work for the biggest company in the country that does this, and I work on business development and try to help people out. So I'm just communicating with people all day long, helping people.
It's very interesting you characterize it that way. You get to hang out on social media. I know you've got a really strong presence on LinkedIn and Facebook, and I think those are your two choice methods of communicating with people. Why have you decided to help grow the business that way instead of, I guess, the old way?
I tried, I guess, the old way a little bit, Jerome. And, I found that, my background is in education and I love to teach. And I just really stumbled. It was really kind of stumbled across LinkedIn. And I say stumble because nothing was really intentionally planned this way, that I'm going to go and be a social media expert and try to do. I didn't, I had an account on LinkedIn for 10 years and opened it up like once every 4 or 5 months, right? And that was what it was. It was like this place, you post your resume or whatever and you see who got a job and you see like whatever. And it was a boring kind of platform until a couple years ago. It actually turned into this like incredible sharing platform of, social networking, but on a business level, which means they're higher standards to a certain degree than other types of social media, which is why I kind of was a little bit, drawn to it. And I saw other people literally posting content and videos and just writing stuff. And I'm like, why are they doing that? And I see people like saying how they're like getting business from these deals, from doing this, getting deals done like through this social platform. I'm like, I could try that. And I literally just like kind of trial and error, tried doing that, got on a couple of podcasts, and it kind of just snowballed, literally.
So you said a couple of podcasts, and we've been playing this game a little bit of name all the different hosts. How many podcasts have you actually done in the past 2 years?
Yeah, so I actually did a tally. I had an assistant help me out to just like tally up, go back like through everything, because I kind of lost track at a certain point. And I created a list, like a Google sheet with a list of like every podcast and everything. So it's actually including, you and I today, I think it's either 70 or 71, somewhere around that, 72 maybe. So yeah, we're around that realm.
That's amazing. And so, but we get the opportunity to talk about more than cost segregation today.
Yeah, right.
So you mentioned about your background in education. Take me back. I mean, where do you live? How do you grow up? Tell me your story, because nobody knows your story in any real detail.
Oh, so we're going to go there, huh?
I want to go there because, you and I talked, and so I've got a pretty good idea of who you really are and how amazing of a person you are. But I don't think people actually know something about you outside of that's the king of cost seg on LinkedIn, who knows everybody and will connect people and give without the expectation of getting something back. So I really want to pull the cloak back and talk about who Yonah is.
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to spare a lot of the gory details, right? But just to keep it simple, I grew up in Southern California, in Los Angeles, San Fernando Valley, if anyone knows where that is, Woodland Hills. Pretty cool place, kind of upper middle class, a little Jewish kid. And I went to college in San Diego. And like, I really had a very strong drawing because of my Jewish heritage, a Jewish identity. I had a strong pull to visit Israel. I'd never been, and for us, for Jewish people, it's almost like a requirement, that you have to go to visit the homeland. You have to go to visit Israel, at least for a certain point. And I had some relatives, I had family that lived there, but I'd never been, and I wanted to, visit. So I decided, through a lot of trials and tribulations, to actually to do it as a junior year study abroad program.
In high school?
In college.
Okay.
In college, yeah. So I had planned to go immediately after high school, and my parents were like against that. They were like, no, if you go, you're never going to come back. And you're just like, got to go to college, got to get a degree. And I'm like, don't worry about it. So I decided to do it as a junior year study abroad program. I ended up going with the intention basically of just like opening up to like wherever, God is going to lead me and direct me on this journey to this foreign country all by myself. I'm just going to go. I'm just going to like go with it. So I was like, I literally, wrote in my journal, and I was like going through like old boxes a few weeks ago. It was really weird. I visited my parents in Los Angeles a few weeks ago, and I like going through old boxes, and I found this journal that I'd written. And I don't really journal so much anymore, but I did on that trip. And I looked at the first page, and it was like, here's like the sentence that I wrote was like, I was at the airport in, Los Angeles, about to board the plane, like watching a Stanley Cup hockey game, and I was like, there's to the first, the step or whatever to the rest of my life, something like that, which was, almost like prophecy in a way, because what ended up happening was, for all intents and purposes, I never left. Like, I just stayed in Israel. So I went and I ended up studying in like a yeshiva, which is like a college. And I took classes at Hebrew University, which is what I got my degree. Ended up getting my college degree. And but I fell in love with the country. I fell in love with so many aspects of it. And just really what I fell in love with more than anything, which was like intense studying, which I had never done it ever before in my life, and it doesn't sound so attractive, and so it sounds like, wow, you love to study intensely, right? But it was so incredible, the experience in this place with other people doing this in this kind of environment. It's hard to imagine, because when we deal with like high school and college, it's like classes and, there's breaks and everything. Here we're dealing with like a intense kind of auditorium where there are tables and chairs set up, or like, they call stenders, like these kind of armrests with like books on, and people sitting there literally for like 6, 8, 10 hours, on end.
What are they studying?
In like deep conversation, not just like quietly, like loudly, in discussing and tearing deeply apart into, very complex Jewish law and, Bible, but like so much more deeper than that. So like Talmudic study involves intense kind of like case study of law. The way that it's written, it was written, thousands of years ago, but it's like a back and forth kind of conversation and bring proofs and rejections and supports for everything in such great detail. So it's hard to really go into too much of that, but I loved it. I hated high school. I like really despised college also. And because it was like boring. I had a couple teachers that I liked and like that was fun, but I played sports and I liked to hang out and like I didn't like to study so much. I volunteered, and even in high school, just going backtrack, I volunteered and I worked as like a private tutor for like kids and stuff like that. So I was very involved in youth. I was a youth advisor, like an organization, a camp counselor. So I was always involved in like teaching and helping and all that kind of stuff. But the actual like sitting in a classroom, like that was not for me.
So you just said you played sports, right? And so I see you in your traditional garb, right? Like, if for the people not watching the video, like think Hasidic Jew, think the hat, think the long black coat, and like, what sport are you playing? Are you wearing that when you play sports? And what sport are you playing?
No, so just to be fully transparent, like I haven't played much of any sports for like the last 20 years, basically. But when I was doing that, or when I do that, I take off the coat, with put on some sneakers.
Soccer, basketball, what are we playing?
Soccer. I played very competitively soccer, basketball, hockey, some high intensity sports. I played golf also, but that's not very high intensity. And I only played golf because I broke my leg in a soccer game in high school and was required to still have a physical education requirement, right? But I could no longer play. Like it was so intense, so badly broken. I broke my both bones in the lower part of my leg. So I was out for like 6 months, and then I just never got back into that. But I had to take some sports, so I took golf, which is really cool.
So you go into study in Israel. You do that your junior year of college, and then what? You stay? You graduate? What do you do?
So I actually I went back to San Diego for a year to finish up my degree. And everything, and I fully believe this, everything happens for a reason, everything. And I really didn't want to go. Like I was really set on like settling in Israel, staying there for the rest of my life. Never going. Like I didn't care about college at that point. I was like, what do I need a degree for? Like, I don't need a college degree. My parents were like, you have to get a degree. You're never going to get a job, and that's like, like a lot of parents kind of, that kind of pressure of college, which I don't really agree with, but I kind of succumbed to that at that point, but went with it with a very open mind and saying, hey, listen, if this is what I need to be doing at this point in my life, I'm going to make the best of it. And it literally did. I think I grew and I gained so much more from that year back in San Diego after having spent a year in Israel than I did from that year in Israel, which was an extremely growth-oriented experience, both, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. It was just kind of opened me up to a totally different, life and life experience. So, but so yeah, I went to San Diego, and I literally used to tell people when I was in San Diego that year, no, they've asked me, where are you from? I said, I live in Israel. Like, I'm just visiting here.
So, there's not a whole lot of people who even know where home is, right? And so that experience of going home seems to be like a turning point for you. And I call that the red pill moment. And so you graduate, you go back and you get into education. Break that down for me. Why that, and what did that actually mean for your life? And then why'd you come out of it?
So it's like everything that I learned, I came very quickly to the point that, a philosophy that if you know something, you should teach that, right? So, if you know ABC, you should teach ABC, right? And so in so many words. So for me, and I actually have, my mother was a teacher. Actually, her parents, both my grandparents, were teachers, which was funny because when I was, getting into studying more teaching, and my grandmother would be like, "Oh, you joined the family business," like. But it's kind of an inside joke. But I loved the learning, and I literally went back to Israel after that year of graduating, had the diploma sent to my parents, and and I think they still have it because I've never seen it. And I went to back to studying like intensely, full time, which means like in classrooms and in kind of partnerships with people, for literally like 12, 14 hours a day, or more. And, intense prayer also, which, obviously we took breaks also. I played sports during that time as well. I rode a bike every day, to and from, but we'll go to the Western Wall, the holiest place for the Jewish people, at that site every single day, for a few, for years, and ended up, after a very short period of time meeting my wife, just it was unbelievable connection, and we got married about not very long after. I won't give the exact dates and times, but whatever, it was good, and we started a family. And so this is going back. We're going to be married this June, 17 years already.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot of people make it there. That's awesome. It's not good. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank God.
So,
hey guys, back in 2016, me and the team decided to formalize Dreamcatchers as an organization who can help people achieve their wildest dreams. If this is you, please visit our website at dreamshouldbereal.com in order to find out the details of our services and how we can help you become a Dreamcatcher. Talk to you soon.
So, all right.
We got to get back to the teaching thing, though.
Yeah. And that's where I was going to go. So you get married, start a family, and now you got to provide for the family, right? Is that teaching?
Yeah, sort of. I mean, yeah, we live very frugally, very, very, very frugally, and studying. And my wife was actually teaching also at the same time, and we, I was studying, but in the place, this kind of institution, these kind of schools that I studied in, I also tutored people kind of on the side, and then actually got a job as a teacher, like teaching what I was learning, same kind of thing. So there's everyone in these kind of groups, it's all post high school, post college age people, and people literally from all walks of life, come to Israel to study. People take off time for 6 months, for a year, for 5 years, and they'll go. And it's a very common practice in the Jewish world for people, and there are institutions, there are what's called yeshivas in Jerusalem today that are some of the biggest institutions in the world. Like there's one, for example, in Jerusalem, which, there's over 7,000 students, in this place, which, for a college, it's not such a big deal to have 7,000 students, but in this little kind of, place in Jerusalem, it's a pretty big deal. So there's dozens of those. And that was, yeah. And I literally, like I said, what you have to teach. So that's what I was doing. And I found actually an incredible rabbi. Rabbi in Hebrew means teacher. So I found the, incredible person who I literally became very close with, a person who was like a father figure to me. I became very close with the whole family. I was like, they kind of adopted me even before I got married. And long story short, I was teaching classes and teaching, kind of in these institutions for years and years and years and years and years. It just kind of went on and on. And then that never really stopped, but it came a certain point where I was like, okay, I'm definitely not making enough money to make ends meet. And, we had like a health situation going on in my family that made it very difficult to continue what I was doing and even consider making ends meet, right? And I was like, I gotta figure something out. I gotta do something new, something different, because what I'm doing now, no matter, even if I like cap it at the most intense, I'm not gonna make enough to make ends meet. I need to figure something else. And that's really where real estate came into play. But that's that's for the next episode probably.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just amazing that you've been able to, one, pick up and leave the West Coast of the U.S. and go to the Middle East, and then just start all the way over there. But you found home. And so I think once you find home, it's kind of easy to just plant roots and kind of grow there. So, and I know we're short on time. I guess the one question I have, or two, is what is the biggest lesson that you've learned along your journey that you wish you would have known sooner?
It's funny because part of my outlook on life is like, what you know when you're meant to know it. Okay.
Wow.
So, if you live with that kind of aspect, so it's not like I wish I would have known something else. Yeah, things could have been different, but that's like change. You can't go back in time. Like there was a story, and this parable, there was a story of a great rabbi who was in great poverty, and he literally was almost in starvation, and he fainted of almost of starvation, and he had a dream, or he had a vision of some kind where kind of God came to him and told him, he's like, what should I do? Like he's like, do you want me to change over the whole world, like start the whole world over from scratch, like recreate all of creation, and then maybe you're going to be born, maybe you'll be born with a different kind of mazel, a different kind of you'll be born into a different family that things might be better, right? So you could go back in time and say, well, if I would have known this, like things would have been better. Yeah, I mean, there's not one thing. There's 100 things that could have been, had I known, would have been different. But I'm very happy and very grateful for what I am now, and where I'm at and where I'm going. And I think that's the most important thing.
Your decision to give without expectation, or your practice of giving without expectation, where did that come from?
It's like a universal principle, I think, which is, we're created in the image of God, which means, God, I don't believe in, it's kind of spooky things. There's some God that sits, God's not physical. It's not some sort of, so how can you be an image of something not physical? It means that God runs and creates creation, runs and is involved in the world with different attributes, so that we can relate to God, right? Not him, her, whatever. It's, and so there's love, and so all these attributes that we have inside of us, the way that character traits that we act towards others, are really just emulating, God. And God is infinite, and God gives infinitely without any expectation to receive anything, because you can't give anything to infinity. No, and so when you are you emulating those character traits and trying to perfect yourself and be the best you that you can be, you're emulating those things as well. So God is giving infinitely, unconditionally, without expecting anything in return. So I want to do the same.
Wow. And so my final question is, what is the one thing that you want people to take away from this episode of the Dreamcatchers podcast?
What's the one thing I would say is, just keep learning, whatever it is, because in the end of the day, life, no matter what life throws at you, the more that you know and the more that you continue learning, the more options you have. and to continue growing. And you never know what's out there until you just keep learning. So, I mean, that's kind of one thing that I learned in my journey, was that I love to learn. And I never knew that because I hated school. But when, put in environments where I was, open to learning, I, grew tremendously and realized that my greatest gift, thank God, is that I learn really quickly. Like, I'm a very fast learner. Like, I picked up, languages that I never spoke or never knew before very quickly, and things like that. So yeah, just keep learning.
So that part just, it gets me, right? Because people say, well, I don't know what my passion is. I don't know what I want to do. I don't know how to, whatever. It's not interesting. And did you just stumble upon it, or was it because you knew that you were going to Israel that you were interested? Like, what was it that turned the light switch on for you?
It was a whole series of events, which, I can't really go through right now, but it kind of, I was open to different, to experiencing different things. I don't know, I'm being extremely vague right now, but I don't know if there was one thing that kind of opened me up to it. But more than anything else, I would say it was just following where I was going, like realizing that I was being led in a certain direction and being open to, experiencing life, as opposed to like trying to plan life. People make plans. They're like, I have to do this. When I'm 18, I'm going to do this. And when I'm 22, I'm going to do this. And when I'm 25, just go with it, just go and be flexible, be open to change, be open to seeing where things are going.
And with that, we're going to wrap this episode. Guys, if you made it to this point, you absolutely loved what Yonah had to share. I think we're going to have him back to get in some more of these details. But until then, do us a favor. Share this with somebody, 5-star rating and review, and make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so that you can get those updates when the new episodes come out. Yonah, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Are you in Israel today?
Yes, I am.
All the way from Israel. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you for joining the tribe today. We would love to hear from you. Please don't forget to rate, like, and share. Perhaps someone you know could benefit from what we've discussed. Until the next time, remember that your dreams should be real.